stuff has happened over the past couple of months which is crazy, and I don't understand how we got in this situation. I don't understand how we got in this situation. Because, okay, fine, long story short, so all of Europe's big and mighty or whatever, they're in the US right now to talk to Donald Trump about his trade war and his trade deal, apparently, and his tariffs that he's doing on European stuff and Chinese stuff and African stuff and all everybody's stuff. But in this case, they're talking about European stuff, of course, because exports are going to be more expensive and it's all going to be very, very terrible and bleak and whatnot, you know. So these bastards, and we're talking about Macron and Ursula von der Leyen, of course, who's never been elected by anyone, but she's still there for some reason. And also Giorgia Meloni and that bastard from Finland with Stubb, who is apparently Donald Trump's golf buddy. That's why he was allowed to come along. And of course our own complete snake in the grass, Marco Rutte. All these bastards are now in Washington to talk to Donald Trump, and oh my lord, it's so cringeworthy, so embarrassing. I mean, I'll show you this stuff. See, there you go. This is a photo. This is a photo of Europe's leaders, apparently, who are sitting in front of Donald Trump's desk as if they're on a job interview, apparently. Look. They're sitting there as if they're on a job interview, or I don't know, maybe like they've been called into the principal's office because they've been naughty. They sit there like naughty children who are just listening to their principal, to their boss, who is laying down the law. And you can see that they don't want that some of them want to be there, some of them don't want to be there, but they're all there, and you can see where the power lies here in this photo. You can see. Because this is the nonsense that we are going through. Why does Europe have such weak leaders? Such weak leaders who just have no mass mandate, who have no support, who just basically, they're all compromised candidates who are elected by nobody knows who come drifting up. Like, you know, like nobody knows where they come from, honestly. Like, they're just there, right? And these are the people who are supposed to represent Europe to the rest of the world, like sharks, like Donald Trump. And this is the problem. This is the problem. Because these people, they just did a trade deal, quote unquote, trade deal with Trump. And that trade deal was a capitulation of Europe against the US. It's as simple as that. It was an embarrassment. It was an embarrassment. And I'll show you what the hell. So basically, that person, von der Leyen, she went to the US to do a trade deal, apparently, with Trump. And what was the end of this so-called trade deal? And honestly, it wasn't a trade deal, it was a capitulation, because there you go, see, she went to the US and she had a nice little convo with Trump, and the result of this was that in this deal, apparently, she promised that the EU would buy 750 billion euros worth of American LPG gas oil. This is even more than this is like 10 times more than we're buying right now, just so you know. But she just promised that this is what we're going to do. To make it worse, she also promised that Europe will invest 600 billion euros in US companies. So not that Europe is going to invest 600 billion euros in European companies, which is where the money should be invested, because it's our own bloody money, it's our own bloody economy. No, it's 600 billion euros being invested in the US economy. So basically, this is what she went there to say. She said, yes, Donald, we will just give you 600 billion euros of European tax money, which you can just use to strengthen your economy, which you can pump into your companies so that they have a stronger position in Europe in the end. And then on top of that, she also promised Donald that Europe would buy even more American weapons, even more. Even though, let's be honest though, there are quite a few European countries, especially like the Netherlands, who are already buying basically 100% American. This is the difference, because there are countries like France, Germany, Italy, who actually have their own stuff, who like fly the Eurofighters, who build the Eurofighters, who have their own helicopters, who have their own gun factories and stuff, and small arms factories. Also Belgium, they've got their own small arms factory, so they can supply themselves. But the Netherlands, they don't look to their European neighbors for supplies. They always buy in America. And this person, this von der Leyen, she is a traitor, man. She is a traitor, because what she said is that basically all of Europe needs to go shopping in America for guns and any kind of weapon, any kind of system, because she is a traitor. This is honestly like, what else can I say? And Europeans are not happy about this. Europe's leaders are not happy about this. Macron complained about this. He said that the EU isn't fair enough. It's not fair enough. Well, of course it's not fair enough when you send von der Leyen to go negotiate with Trump, because we know that she is a America groupie. She's an America groupie. She is an Americophile. She loves America. She loves America more than she does Europe. I honestly think that woman, she hates Europe. She wants to be an American. So basically, she's an American agent who works for America. She's always done this. This is why Macron complained, and his Prime Minister François Bayrou. He said even more. He was even more honest, because he actually said that this is a submission, a capitulation. C'est un jour sombre que celui où une alliance de peuples libres rassemblés pour affirmer leurs valeurs et défendre leurs intérêts se résout à la soumission. In other words, it's a somber day for an alliance of free people. The result is a submission, a capitulation of Europe to America again. And I mean, honestly, but I don't know why this is such a surprise. I don't know what is a surprise, because honestly, we knew that when this woman was re-elected, apparently, as president of the EU or whatever, president of the European Commission, when she was elected with nobody standing against her, she was literally elected in an election which was as free as North Korea, honestly, like free and honest and competitive as North Korea. We knew that this was going to be the end for Europe, because she is not European. She's not pro-European. She's pro-American. So what do we really honestly expect here to happen? Honestly, if we ask ourselves. And this is how we get to this situation. Europe is literally shining Trump's shoes, while the Russians are of course standing by and smirking, because they can smirk in this case, can't they? Europe is basically America's bitch at this point. This is the way it is. It's sad, but that is the way it is. And this is how we get to this point right here. This is how we get to this point right here, where we have all the so-called leaders of Europe just sitting around the desk of the president of the US, as if they're naughty school children or who are just in there to be punished by their principal for something that they did. I mean, honestly, they're looking like they're on a job interview, not as if they're the leaders of their countries, not as if they're representing 450 million European citizens. This is the problem. And this is the problem because honestly, I still believe that European cooperation is actually a good and necessary thing. Anything is better than going back to the old ways of inner European warfare and shit like that. That doesn't work. So honestly, I still believe that European cooperation is a good and necessary thing, and that we actually need to have like a European mentality about shit where we as Europeans work together to make Europe better than it was. But it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work as long as people like this are the ones who keep running Europe in a very undemocratic, anti-democratic, stupid, anti-European way. This is not what is working right now. And this is why so many people simply cannot support the EU. And honestly, I am part of that. I am part of those people who cannot support the EU. As you've seen in my videos, I am Eurosceptic. I am Eurosceptic not because I hate Europe, not because I hate European cooperation, but because Europe, the EU, is just not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. I mean, honestly, I would not mind living in a united Europe. Let's say a European Confederation or a European Federation or whatever the hell you want to call it. If that united Europe was actually reasonably democratic, reasonably transparent, effective, reasonably honest. I mean, we're not asking for too much here, but some honesty, some democracy, some a little bit of effectiveness and strength is not too much to ask. But we don't get that. We never get that from the EU. Never. Instead, we get weak compromised candidates who are apparently leaders, but leaders who can't negotiate themselves out of a wet paper bag if their lives depended on it. We've seen this. We are literally led by traitors who prioritize everybody else's national interests over Europe's own interests. This is what we see, and this is the problem. This is the problem. So how can you, if you actually think that European cooperation is still a necessary thing, how in the hell can you support the EU still, when you see that the EU has actually evolved into something that is anti-European? How can you possibly still support the EU? Well, I can't. I mean, I am all for Europe. I am all for Europe, proudly European. But I can't support the EU. So we need something better. We need something else. We need to think hard and fast about replacing the EU with something that actually works. And you know what? I've got my preference, obviously. Everybody does, right? But to be honest, it's more important that we change this shit for something that actually works than what exactly it is. I mean, whether we go back to like a European community of cooperative states, of cooperative sovereign states, or whether we move on and like do a European Federation or something with actual democratic checks and balances and stuff like that, and actual like democratic processes. Those are the two extremes basically that we can go, or maybe something in the middle, like a confederation of the nation states where it's not complete like sovereignty, but something in the middle where we share resources, where we share institutions, but it's still sovereign nations or something like that. There are multiple options. There are multiple options that can work, and there are actually multiple options that can work better than the shit that we have now. Because the problem is with the EU is that it's so woolly, so incomprehensible, so untransparent, so impossible to explain in, like, let's say a couple of sentences. You literally need hours to explain how the European Union structure works, and even then you will have made mistakes. You will not get everything, and people probably don't understand either, because it's just so incredibly woolly. It's so woolly and badly thought out and badly constructed that we honestly need to scrap this shit, scrap the EU, and start over with something that actually works. So this is what we need to do, because the problem is, if we don't, then we're going to end up with more of the same thing, like this, with European leaders who apparently represent 450 million citizens sitting at the desk of the president of the US as if they're naughty school children. Frankly, I think that this is an embarrassment.